Even the most glamorous royal women hid a secret so foul it could empty an entire ballroom. Beneath the silks and diamonds of 17th century France lay a world of shocking filth. Behind the beauty of Versailles, royal women endured unimaginable hygiene horrors masked by perfume and pride. And here's where it gets downright disgusting. In the grand palace of Versailles, where every chandelier sparkled and every gown shimmered, there was one thing no one wanted to touch: water. You'd think royalty lived in luxury, but when it came to bathing, they were living in fear. Back then, science hadn't exactly caught up with reality. Doctors, the same ones who prescribed leeches for everything, believed that warm water could actually hurt you. They thought it opened your pores to disease, like stepping into a bath was basically inviting the plague to move in. And if that wasn't enough, the church chimed in too. Bathing wasn't just unhealthy, it was sinful, a sign of vanity. So gradually, the idea of washing your body started to disappear. Royal women, despite all their wealth, rarely bathed. A full-body wash, almost unheard of. Instead, they'd take a soft cloth, dip it in alcohol, vinegar, or, get this, even their own saliva, and gently wipe their hands, face, and neck. That was considered freshening up. Can you imagine that smell under layers of corsets and gowns? And when an actual bath did happen, it was almost a family event. One tub, one batch of water. Everyone took turns. Men first, women last. By the time a lady of noble birth got in, the water was cold and cloudy and probably had things floating in it you don't even want to picture. But hey, that was luxury. The result? Versailles. The symbol of beauty and grace stank like an unholy mix of sweat, mildew, perfume, and decay. Visitors often wrote about the smell hitting them before they even entered the hall. And remember, this was a place where nobles doused themselves in gallons of perfume just to mask the odor. They didn't wear perfume for pleasure, they wore it for survival. Royal women were expected to be flawless, smooth skin, radiant beauty, the picture of elegance. But underneath the silk and jewels, their skin hadn't seen soap in months. It was the ultimate contradiction. Beautiful from afar, unbearable up close. Think about it for a second. You're standing next to a duchess or a queen, her hair piled high, gown glimmering under candlelight, and yet, beneath it all, she smells like a mix of old wine, sweat, and vinegar. What would you have done? Keep smiling or stepped back fast? That was royal life at its finest and foulest. And just when you think it couldn't possibly get worse, it does. Because if bathing was a disaster, the royal bathroom situation was a straight-up nightmare. Versailles might have been dripping with gold, but when nature called, there was nowhere to go. Literally. Picture this: hundreds of rooms, thousands of courtiers, and yet barely a single working toilet. The mightiest palace in Europe had no proper plumbing. So how did they manage? With chamber pots, little bowls tucked under beds, behind curtains, or hidden in fancy cabinets. When it was time to go, you just went. And then someone, usually a servant, had to take that pot and dump it out the window. Now imagine strolling through the royal gardens or under a balcony and splat. You'd better pray the wind wasn't against you that day. Visitors wrote horrified letters describing how they saw nobles casually tossing waste out of windows, completely unbothered. Some didn't even bother with the pot. They'd relieve themselves right in the hallways or among the rose bushes outside, the same gardens where elegant balls and picnics took place. We're doing a giveaway for a $200 Amazon gift card when we hit 1,000 subscribers. Make sure to smash that subscribe button and comment below so we know to add you to the raffle. Thanks, and best of luck to everyone who enters.
I usually wear this hairstyle with a beret, and then you can't see that it is messy.
And here's where things go from disgusting to downright unbelievable. Because while the royal women of Versailles were skipping baths and dodging chamber pots, they were also carrying around one of the biggest fashion nightmares in history, literally on their heads. In the world of the French court, wigs weren't just hairstyles, they were status symbols. The higher your rank, the taller your hair. And when I say tall, I don't mean inches. These things could reach feet above their heads, decorated with pearls, ribbons, feathers, and even miniature ships. Yes, actual ships, complete with sails and rigging. Women turned their hair into architectural masterpieces. It wasn't fashion. It was engineering. To make those massive hairpieces stay upright, they used wire frames, horsehair, wool, and whatever else could add volume. But the real secret ingredient, the one that made everything stick together, was pomade. Not the kind you'd find at a salon. This was made from animal fat, usually beef tallow, slathered on thick. It gave the wigs structure, shine, and an unforgettable stench. Now combine weeks without washing, the warmth of all that hair, and a thick layer of grease. And what do you get? A perfect breeding ground for lice. These royal crowns were crawling. Entire lice colonies thrived in the curls and powder, but no one dared admit it. Fashion at court was everything. Looking unkempt meant losing status, favor, and maybe even your place in the king's good graces. So women came prepared. They carried long, ornate silver tools called lice claws, fancy little scratchers to relieve the itch without ruining their elaborate hair. Picture this: a royal dinner, chandeliers glowing, violins playing softly, and a duchess delicately scratching her scalp mid-toast. Everyone is pretending not to notice. The wigs were also heavy. So heavy that women suffered chronic neck and back pain. Some styles were so large they couldn't even fit through doorways without ducking. And since candlelight filled every room, accidents were inevitable. Flames caught in wigs more than once, turning beauty into disaster. Meanwhile, poor women who couldn't afford the vanity of court life had a far simpler solution. They just shaved their heads. No wigs, no lice, no nonsense. But for noble women, their hair was their crown, even if that crown was infested, greasy, and painfully heavy. The irony couldn't be clearer. These women ruled the fashion of Europe, yet beneath all that luxury, they were literally scratching for survival. Just when you think Versailles couldn't get more revolting, we step into the royal dining hall, where the food looks divine but could easily kill you. From the outside, royal banquets were the height of luxury. Tables overflowed with roasted pheasants, glistening pastries, and golden goblets filled with fine wine. The chandeliers sparkled, the orchestra played, and courtiers whispered compliments about the queen's taste and elegance. But behind the kitchen doors, it was a completely different story, a nightmare simmering beneath the silver trays. The truth was, Versailles had terrible plumbing. So terrible, in fact, that raw sewage often backed up straight into the royal kitchens. Imagine preparing dinner for the Queen of France while filthy wastewater bubbled up through the floor. It wasn't rare, it was routine. Even Queen Marie Antoinette's private kitchen wasn't spared. Historical accounts describe moments when sewage literally flooded her kitchen, mixing with the smell of roasting meat and pastries. Without refrigeration or proper ventilation, food spoils quickly. Meat would rot within hours, fruits fermented, and bread grew mold before it reached the table. Rats and insects had free rein in the pantries, scurrying between platters that would later be served to nobles. But the cooks couldn't stop. The show had to go on, no matter how foul the ingredients were. The result? A palace full of stomach pain and misery. Food poisoning was practically a daily event. Vomiting, diarrhea, and violent infections swept through the court like the weather. Tapeworms were so common that even the mighty Louis XIV wasn't spared. Records say he once passed a 6-inch tapeworm. Think about that. The most powerful man in France, eaten from the inside by his own royal dinner. And yet, through it all, the women of the court had to pretend everything was perfect. They sat at the table smiling, laughing, and nibbling delicately on dishes that could make them violently ill. Showing disgust was unladylike. Throwing up was unthinkable. They had to suffer in silence, maintaining their poise as their stomachs churned. Every banquet was a performance, a deadly masquerade of grace and rot. Beneath the glittering surface, Versailles wasn't just unsanitary, it was poisonous. Of all the humiliations royal women endured at Versailles, none were as horrifying or as public as giving birth. In a world obsessed with lineage and legitimacy, a queen's body wasn't her own. It belonged to the crown, the court, and the gossiping nobles who packed her chambers to witness one of the most intimate moments of her life. Royal childbirth was a spectacle designed to prevent baby swapping. In the ruthless politics of monarchy, even a whisper of illegitimacy could topple dynasties. When the queen went into labor, privacy was forbidden. Doors opened to nobles, priests, and courtiers, all crammed into the room to ensure the baby truly came from her body. Hundreds of bodies pressed close, heat, sweat, and candle smoke filling the air, while the queen screamed in agony. Both Marie-Thérèse and Marie-Antoinette reportedly fainted, overwhelmed not just by pain but by the suffocating crowd. Even after birth, safety was far from guaranteed. Primitive medicine, unwashed hands, and filthy instruments meant infections were common, and many mothers never recovered. Royal babies weren't safe either. Nearly 1 in 3 died before age 3. And yet, the queen had to smile, present herself as radiant, composed, and graceful. At Versailles, childbirth wasn't a private joy. It was a cruel performance. Beneath the diamonds and lace, these women weren't living. They were surviving. Behind Versailles' glittering beauty lay a reality no perfume could hide. These royal women weren't living fairy tales. They were surviving filth, sickness, and suffering beneath diamonds and lace. If you think luxury means comfort, think again. Sometimes the most beautiful lives are the dirtiest of all. Like, share, and subscribe for more hidden truths of history.